record holder for the most yards ever passing in a single game. Rohan Davey. Emmitt Smith joins us in studio.
It's the first time I played in such a place that had that much noise.
Jock, throw a rock and you'll hit a 3-star cornerback in Louisiana.
Jock Talk is sponsored by Locke Meredith Injury Lawyers.
Darry Beckwith was a star linebacker for the LSU Tigers from 2005 through 2008, and he's been a great host on 9 Sports Extra. Darry, thanks for coming down, man. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure, Jock, to be around such a superstar like yourself.
Jeez. Well, your definition of superstar is a little bit different than other people's, I tell you. But as I say, I'm somewhat well known in a 50-mile radius around here. I covered you in high school, Darry, playing for the great Kenny Guillotte back in the day.
Yeah. You're showing your age, Jock. Don't tell people your secret now. You still like you're 25 years old.
Oh, wow. Look at this is going to be the greatest interview ever. Yeah,
It is.
Thanksgiving's around the corner, but I got butter. I'm buttered up already, I tell you what. But, the Kenny Guillotte, the great Kenny Guillotte. He won like 4 state titles in like 7 years or something like that. They had a dynasty there.
He did. It was incredible. Every time I would go back, though, when I was in LSU, he would come to me. He regretted not winning state championship my junior year. That was in 2003. We had a phenomenal team, but he always regretted. He said, man, I wish we could have got you a state championship my junior year.
Well, the great coaches, whether it's Kim Mulkey or Nick Saban, I've heard them say, I hate losing more than I like winning. And I think at one point, Nick Saban had won 5 national championships, and he said something like, yeah, but I lost those 2. The great ones, they're maybe too hard on themselves, but Kenny Guillotte, good example of that as well, I guess.
You did not want to see him on game day. He was atrocious to be around on game day, but that's why he was so successful. And he was so detail-oriented. He was always on edge on game days, but that's why we came out and played the way we did. I tell people all the time, and people think Parkview, that at that time we were winning a lot of games, oh, you guys are recruiting. Oh, you guys are getting players from other towns and other states. Somebody told me they thought I came from California. I was like, no, I didn't come from California. Like, a lot of these guys went to grade school at Parkview Baptist, but it was just a system that he implemented. The toughness, the physicality, the discipline, and being consistent and being accountable to each other was the reason that we were successful. And also, I could probably count on my hand how many guys actually play college football. So that lets you know what he implemented, and hopefully Parkview can get back to that point. And I think Devin Ducote, who's the head coach there now, is doing that. He's going to do a phenomenal job. Yeah,
Ducote is definitely he's a football coach. Yeah. He's a tough guy, coached with David Semino at Central, or coached with him for a while, and he's going to do a good job over there. And but I remember, Friday nights going there, the place was always packed. And photographers would complain that they were so hard to shoot offensively, Parkview. It's like, where's the ball? Like, the quarterback has it, then he fakes it, then did he keep? Did he hand it off? And so I guess for a defensive player, it was the same thing. Where's the ball? Oh, there he's guys running down the field.
It was miserable going against in practice, going against a triple option. And for him, 3rd and 11, running the midline was a high percentage play on 3rd and 11. He didn't throw the football. And, we'll get it a lot of times, and we would just run defenses down with that triple option. I remember my junior year, actually, we played West St. John, and that's when they had Tyson Jackson, Quinn Johnson, had another guy named Josh Lumar, and had a receiver that went to Louisiana Tech. Now, West St. John was a 2A school, but probably had the best team in the state. And I can remember this is the only time Coach Gab, before the game, he came up to me. He said, you think we're going to win? He was nervous. He didn't know. He had no idea. And we got up to 28-0 in the first half against West St. John because they didn't understand that offense. Yeah. Years later, I obviously had the opportunity to play with Tyson Jackson, and he brought that game up. He's like, we didn't realize how physical you guys were until that first snap. When the offensive lineman bust me in my mouth, I realized it's going to be a different ball game. And obviously, West St. John went on to win the state championship that year. But I can remember, matter of fact, at LSU, Parkview Baptist was in the playoffs, and they were practicing in an indoor facility. And I got a phone call from Tyson. He said, "Is something wrong with your coach?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Darry, they are killing each other right now in the indoor facility." And this is during the playoffs.
Yeah.
So the physicality that he wanted was year round, and they actually had to get him to tailor it back a little bit going into my senior year because, Jacques, we hit every single day. Like, we didn't do tackling drills. His tackling was, hey, good on good, let's strap it up and get after it. And so that's what made him so great. And it kind of follows you after football. That's the mental toughness, the physical toughness, the tenacity to never quit. And I credit a lot of my success to Coach Guillot. He taught me work ethic. He taught me what it meant to strive for more and be more and never be complacent.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace, Kenny Guillot. Those Parkview Redemptorist games, I'm not sure if we've had anything like it since. We've got some great rivalries like Santa Maula, East Ascension, and some others. But there was something about those games at the Rock. Sid Edwards obviously is our mayor now. He was the head coach at Redemptorist, going up against Kenny Guillot a lot of times, or Parkview. They played on a Thursday night often too.
Thursday night.
It was the only game in town, so to speak, or the only big game in town. And I remember covering a lot of those. I remember Jeremy Hill playing for Redemptorist. I mean, who's my guy that went to Michigan? Drew Dillio?
Drew Dillio of Parkview, yes.
Parkview?
Drew Dillio was a Parkview legend, phenomenal athlete. And so they had some great matchups. And I don't know if it was like a marketing tool. I don't know if Redemptorist and Parkview knew what they were doing back then to be the only game on Thursday. I don't know if it just fell on that day. And it's happened that both these programs end up being really good. It was a packed house on Thursday night.
Well, I just remember Coach Guillot saying, we had a round table of coaches. Steve Schneider brought a group of coaches in, and he said, look, none of us ever got into this to win championships or to put rings on our finger. Obviously, that's great. That's the goal, to win. But we all got into it because we enjoy being around young people. We like influencing young people's lives. We like, disciplining them, kicking them in the butt, I mean, we don't want kids sitting home all day and doing nothing in the air conditioning. Get outside, do something, sweat, be productive. And he was obviously a big part of that in Baton Rouge and throughout the state.
He was. I remember we used to practice. So Labor Day, we were out of school on Labor Day, but his biggest thing was it's called Labor Day for a reason. We were going to labor. Yeah. He would always say that. So on Labor Day, we labored, we practiced, and he made the most out of it. And obviously his biggest thing was after high school, and when you became an adult, he wanted you to come back. He wanted to see you as a successful husband and a successful father, and that was his thing. He always preached God first, others seconds, and yourself last. He had a Bible that he used to carry around, and that thing was ripped up from the front to the back because he was just, when he got to Parkview, I don't know if people know this story. I don't want to be too long, but when the Parkview job was open, they said he was at a Christmas party, and a guy came up to him and said, hey, have you ever thought about getting back into coaching because he stepped out it for a while? Do you want to come to Parkview Baptist and apply for the job? He said, Parkview Baptist? He said, but I'm Catholic. And so he was like, and the guy said, no, you don't have to be Baptist. But when he got there, he got so in tune, in depth with that, like as far as the different culture and then Parkview Baptist had, man, he would carry around his Bible, and we saw that. And was like, man, if he can do that, if he can be committed to something like that when the front of the Bible is being ripped off, the back of the Bible is hanging on by a thread, why can't we come out here and prepare every single day to be successful on a Friday night? And like I said, it carried with us after we got done playing football.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, I didn't expect to be spending that much time talking about Kenny Guillot, but I'm glad I did. That's why I don't write a script on these things. We start talking, and whatever comes out, comes out. And I remember being in college at the artist formerly known as USL. I went to college with a guy named Alton Melanson, who went to school at Parkview, and he was there before Kenny Guillot got there, and he would tell me about what football was like before Kenny Guillot got there and after, because they were a baseball power and still have been for years. Won a lot of state titles there. Was my guy M.L. Woodruff.
Yes, Coach Woodruff, legend.
Legendary coach, and I think he went into the Ronnie Ransom will correct me if I'm wrong. I think he's in both Hall of Fames in Louisiana, the LHSA Hall of Fame and the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. But all right, from happier to not so happy, let's talk about LSU. So let me just start wide here, and maybe this is the definition of a leading question, but are you embarrassed right now, like looking at everything that's happening at LSU in the last couple of weeks?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
At the same time. Embarrassed from the standpoint, when you think of a flagship university, you think of what LSU stands for, the resources, the people that you have in leadership, you would not think that it would have come to this point. It's too much dipping your foot in water, bring your foot out of water. It's too much he said, she said. And honestly, Jock, it's like a reality TV show. That's what it looks like. It looks like they should have MTV cameras, TMZ cameras coming around, and following LSU because I think they'll make a lot of money off that.
Yeah.
The other part I'm not embarrassed about is this. I think I was telling somebody this earlier today, from LSU from a standpoint is this. I think that not everybody, but as a whole, the leadership of LSU is telling the fans, telling the people, man, we want to be successful. We want to be great in all sports. We want to be great in football. We're doing everything that we can possibly do to be successful. But the decisions that they're making are telling me that they don't want to be successful. Yeah. So that's why I'm not embarrassed. It seemed like they're more concerned possibly with their bottom line than actually winning football games. And you can see that right now it's imploding. I think LSU kind of got behind Jock when the NIL era kind of came out in the transfer portal. They wasn't ready for it. And so when you're comfortable with one way of doing things, and then all of a sudden it's like a lightning bolt that comes in and just kind of destroys everything that you thought made you successful when the NIL and the transfer portal, I think it caught them off guard. And so they're still trying to navigate through that. And with this whole situation, it just hasn't been handled correctly. With the hiring of Brian Kelly, I think he wasn't the right man for the job. And even now with him being fired, I don't know if he's actually fired now. That's the whole situation. Like, it's just been handled incorrectly, and they have to fix this pretty fast.
Yeah, well, he was not on the sideline in Tuscaloosa. I went to go cover that game. He was not coaching the team. And Frank Wilson has done a series of press conferences as the interim head coach since that debacle against Texas A&M in Tiger Stadium. So this has taken a new turn. Now, look, ever since he got fired, I have heard from people that they had no intent on paying $53 million. Now, will they or not? I'm not sure about that. But it certainly seems like they've got some cards they're looking to play. Mm-hmm. And I'm a Catholic. I go to church, and I don't want to gossip too much. But obviously, when you fire for cause, there's at least that's what LSU is saying, then there's some stuff there. He's just going to go, just his legacy, Darry. I mean, and I'm not trying to pile on now the guy got fired, but I think outside of Curly Hallman, who was 16-28 record, I think pretty much every other coach is going to be remembered in a more positive light than Brian Kelly because of the money they spent, because of this mess, because of the fact he never tried to really connect with fans or connect with LSU or Louisiana, just kind of aloof, it seemed. And maybe that's just the way he is. If he would have won more games, we wouldn't have cared about that stuff. But his legacy, it's just going to be really interesting looking forward. Is he one of the, this whole thing, is it going to be one of the worst things that ever happened there by the time they pay and all this stuff?
Isn't that crazy to say that his legacy is going to be diminished a little bit? And he actually has a winning record.
71%.
At LSU. His first year, they were SEC West champions, even though they got destroyed by Georgia in the SEC championship game. Nobody expected him to win that football game. But he had a successful first year. Second year, he has a Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels. Now, defensively, worst defense in football, college football history. And then, the expectations coming into this year his third year with Nussmeier were it was up and down, but he still had a winning season, ended up with 10 wins, I believe. And this year, I think with all the expectations with the transfer portal, having the number one transfer portal class in the country, and having Nussmeier coming back, and Blake Baker in his second year defensively, I think he's doing a phenomenal job right now with that defense. I think it was so much expectations, it was heightened, and everybody from the outside knew, okay, this is a playoff team. You at least have to get to the playoffs. Yeah. But again, it just didn't work out that way. I think the decisions Brian Kelly made affected him down the line. And I think a lot of times when you make decisions in the present moment, it's going to affect your future. So I think certain things on the coaching staff that he should have did differently, I think probably would have still had his job. But I believe, to your point, he never was really bought in. And you're not really bought in, your decision-making is not going to be up to par and not going to be where it's supposed to be. So I don't even really think he really cared about who's my offensive coordinator, or, what should I do? Should I connect with this player, or should I not connect with this player? I don't know if you remember this. His first year, I knew it was going to be an issue. His first year when he got here, him and Keyshawn Boutte did not hit it off too well. And he didn't mention Keyshawn's name in the press conference at all. I'm paraphrasing that other guy, until he does what he's supposed to do, I'm going to call him by his name. Well, Brian Kelly, this is not the Midwest. This is Louisiana, and the culture is a whole lot different. People connect with you because of the relationships. And so when you go and on your first really main press conference and you kind of bash the best player in your team, you think he's going to be bought in? And Kayshawn took a lot of flack that year because it seemed like he was disinterested. He was disengaged. Well, it started with Brian Kelly because he never had his trust. He couldn't trust him. So letting go Corey Raymond the first time, the way he let Coach Moffitt go, it was a lot of decisions. He came in, I think he thought that people down here didn't know what they were doing, and they were dumb, and that we didn't understand football, understand how an organization is supposed to run. And in actuality, one thing we know about is crawfish, and we know our football. So everything else you can say, but I just think he handled a lot of things wrong, and it ultimately got him fired. But honestly, I don't think he really cared about the decisions he made. He knew in the back of his mind, the worst he's going to do, Jock, is make $10 million a year. That's the worst he's going to do. And the best he's going to do is $53 million.
When you're 60 years old, when you got the job, and you're already a pretty established coach. Now, look, when I get to be 60 or anybody, maybe they feel like they've paid their dues in some respects, and I'm not going to do X, Y, Z, which I get, right? I mean, you do kind of move up, but then you do have to be bought in to a certain extent. Yeah. You do have to show up, I think, more than what he showed up, and you don't mind. I don't mind a coach getting animated with people and shouting and yelling at him if that guy is bought in as much as the players are supposed to be.
Right.
If you're not there and then you're showing up belittling people, then there's an issue with that. And that's your assistant coaches too. They're kind of like, where you been, type thing. And so you could say, well, if they would have had more success, he was a CEO and he delegated. And look, to an extent, when he came in, I remember some people saying, well, we've been carrying over certain people from coach to coach. Maybe we need to wipe the whole thing clean, after Orgeron. We need a fresh start. But obviously, maybe keeping Corey would have been a good idea. He brought him back. Keeping Blake Baker might have been a good idea. He brought him back. And look, I don't have anything bad to say about Jake Flint. I know a lot of people who know him and know his family, and they're great and everything. But you got to look at the strength and conditioning, right, and say, we're not as tough as we need to be. We're getting pushed around. I mean, Vanderbilt, Greg Bowser was sitting there. He said that game was more startling to me than the A&M game for the fact that we just got pushed around in the trenches and everything. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I just think from the physicality standpoint, and I look at on both sides of the ball. So no matter what changes in college football, no matter the offense, no matter the defense, no matter if it's tailored toward the offense, one thing that's going to win you football games or make you compete is your O-lineman and your D-lineman. How good are you in the trenches? How physical you are offensively when it's time to run the football. Can you run the football? And the defense knows you're going to run the football and can't stop it.
Right.
Defensively, are you flying around and knocking chin straps loose? Now, but I can say defensively, they have been pretty good this year. You had ups and downs where, teams are going to score points, and I think it has a lot to do with our offense not able to score points either. But even defensively, they're still missing that physicality. When I'm watching A&M on defense, it's like you have a lot of guys that's flying around just knocking the snot out of people. I'm looking at Georgia defense. I'm looking at Texas defense. Those guys are physical. I still feel like we're lacking that physicality. And obviously, you take on the persona as your head coach. And I don't know Jake Flint at all. I never met him, but I know he's a good strength coach. But at the same time, I think sometimes science gets in the way of actually being a good football player.
Yeah, like analytics too.
Yeah.
Like the analytics told us to go for it or whatever. Sometimes you got to go by feel maybe or, the way things are going. Giving Harlem Berry a carry, he gets 16 yards and he doesn't touch the ball again for a while. Because maybe we've scripted plays or we're supposed to we've drawn up stuff, right, to be smart and attack the defense. And it'd be interesting to see whoever the new head coach is going to be. Do they retain Corey Raymond, Baker, Frank Wilson? Those will be the three off the top of my list that I would think that, it's kind of like surgery, Darry.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't take this organ out of the body because it's connected to this one or that one. You start talking about recruiting and who's being recruited and is this person tied to that person. And so, you thought politics were a lot in high school when you were running for a student office. Can you imagine the angling and the politicking that's going on to be the head football coach at LSU and be on the staff? And it's an interesting place we're at.
It is. Whoever the head coach, they have a lot of decisions to make. And when I think whoever is the head coach, they need to just sit down and assess the situation first. I think when Brian Kelly did, he heard how much of a mess this program was. And so in his mind, I'm really not going to sit down and assess the situation. I'm just going to clean shop and get rid of everybody instead of really sitting down and saying, okay, what can I actually do? Is it really that bad? What can I tweak? And that CEO model, that's what a CEO does, right? If you have a new CEO comes in, they assess the situation first before just cleaning the house because of what you heard, how bad it was, but you didn't experience it yet. And you knew he made a mistake because he, like you said, he brought Corey Raymond back. He brought Blake Baker back. So he knew he did make some mistakes. So I think this new head coach has to kind of assess the situation. Look, and this program is in a good state right now. It is, as far as the amount of talent they can get in Louisiana. They're trying to get the money generated with NIL. Obviously, you saw the transfer portal that they did really well. But certain things they can tweak. And I'm not a big fan of the transfer portal when you build your roster on the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. I think I talked about this at the beginning of the year because when you build your whole team on the transfer portal, you have guys, you may have great players, but how bought in are they to your system because they haven't been here 2 or 3 years? You know, when I played, you're looking at a guy like Matt Flynn, okay, who waited 5 years to play. You had guys who, I'm thinking about Duke Riley, Deion Jones, the linebackers. These guys did not play until their senior year. Right. They played special teams the first 3 years, but they were bought to the program. They knew how much they meant to LSU, and they knew how much LSU meant to them. So if you get a guy that transferred in from Virginia Tech, look, Master Delane has been incredible. I'm not singling him out. I'm just saying, how invested are they into the program? Like, does it really matter? Do they really care?
If the reasons you came here are now off the board,
right.
If I came to LSU because I'm getting paid and I want to play for a national championship, and I guess you're still getting paid to an extent, but the national championship's off the board.
Right.
Now, how much do I care? You know, they're not Darry Beckwith. They didn't grow up in Baton Rouge.
No,
they didn't get goosebumps when the Golden Band from Tigerland took the field, or the team ran out of the tunnel, or Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, or whoever your heroes were growing up that played for LSU. Who were your guys you watched in the 90s?
I just remember the Florida game. I think that's a cliche statement. I'm in a Florida game with Herb Tyler, running the option around the corner, scoring a touchdown. Kevin Falk kind of put LSU on the map. And for me as a kid to see Michael Clayton, who I knew growing up, to see him go to LSU and be successful. Marcus Spears being from Baton Rouge, because at that time, nobody from Baton Rouge was going to LSU. When they did it and were successful, like, oh, wait a minute. Like, okay, I can play LSU as well. And it's just, you can't build your team on the transfer portal. I think every successful college team now, it's bits and pieces that they get from the transfer portal. But most of the guys, like Ohio State, who won the championship last year, had a lot of seniors, few people in the transfer portal. Year before, that Michigan team was a senior-laden team. Guys been there 3 or 4 years. They had a few people, from the transfer portal.
Vanderbilt's got a lot of 4th and 5th year seniors on that team.
And they're successful. Even like you think about like high school football, right? A team may not be as talented. They got a couple athletes that can put them over the top.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody else plays within the system. Same thing in college football.
Well, and the pressure to win, too, I think affects that. Because if I'm a coach, if I have a choice to go get a seasoned veteran in the free agent market, so to speak, as opposed to, well, this kid's got talent, but he's a freshman, he's green, he doesn't know how to play, I'm going to be patient with him. I got to win now. Do you lean more towards the transfer portal guy? But I think it's kind of like, this is goofy, it's kind of like eating, right? You're supposed to have 3 meals a day, and then you're supposed to have supplements, right? Protein shake, right? And everything. Right. You don't fill up on protein shakes all day, right? And so that's kind of like, your high school class is supposed to be your 3 meals a day, and then you supplement with the portal for the other spots. And Kelly, that was what he used to say. Mm-hmm. He'd say, we want to supplement with the portal, but we don't want to build a team on the portal because, they're in, they're out, and you got senior day, like you said, when you played. Here's a guy that's been here 4 years. The fans standing ovation. Well, here's a guy that's been here 5 months, 6 months. We don't know who this person is. It's just different. Nick Brossette, another guy. Yeah. He rode the pine basically for 3 years, and his senior year he has a big year, goes over 1,000 yards, and they have a nice year, and he gets to play. I mean, those are the kind of stories you like to tell.
Right.
So I don't know what I'm saying with all that, but it's just a different game now.
I still don't. I mean, I'm watching LSU right now on offensive defense. If I see a guy going to the field, I still don't know who that guy is. Like, I'm still trying to learn the names because of how the system is. And I think you can get so caught up in this transfer portal. and get so distracted because you hear all the other stuff is going on. Oh, they got these transfers coming in. But the teams that are winning it are not transfer portal heavy, like not transfer portal built. Like they're not. You know, I mentioned Ohio State. I mentioned Michigan. Like teams that are going to win it this year, you're going to see a lot of guys that have been in that program 2 or 3 or 4 years, and guys sprinkled in from the portal. Look at A&M. I mean, I don't know their complete roster, but their team's not built on the portal. They built on recruiting. They recruited well, and they got a few guys in the portal. But other than that, they have developed those guys, kept them in the program, and they're having a great year.
I haven't kept up. Are those classes that Jimbo brought in, are they starting to hit now, or a lot of them left, I think?
Yeah, a lot of them did leave, but, I mean, they always recruited well. Like, even Texas schools always recruited well because of the resources they have. But, I mean, just look at from the quarterback to the running back. Obviously, Le'Veon Moss, a local kid, goes there, and they have a linebacker in York who's been in that program, and they're doing a phenomenal job, and they have an identity. Yeah. I think in college football, if you don't have an identity, if you don't know what you're doing and how you're trying to do it and where you're trying to go, you're not going to be successful. And that was the issue with LSU this year.
Yeah, well, and then because they can't block offensively or not the way they want to, this is smoke and mirrors. These sideways passes, you know, we're getting the ball out of our hands quick because we can't hold up. And we're hoping that a guy on the flank can make a move and get up the field. These are kind of almost extensions of your running game, too, because we can't run the ball between the tackles the way we want to. And, you know, I think the running back room is kind of, you know, I don't want to talk bad about anybody, but it's kind of lacking. Harlem Berry is not supposed to be leading the way as a true freshman. There's supposed to be a veteran presence there for Harlem to play off of, which, you know, the more reps Harlem gets, the better he'll be for the future, and they can run him more next year. But yeah, these are all things that, you know, it's just a bad spot, Darry, where there's 3 games left in the regular season. You're not playing for anything significant. You're not ranked, and the games are not the focus right now. Nobody's really even talking about the football. It's about who's going to be the next head coach. This thing going on with this drama going on with Brian Kelly. Verge now being the AD. He was the interim, then he was the kind of in-between AD. Okay, now he's the AD.
Yeah, it's just...
Our governor and his involvement in this, the athletic director being fired, Scott Woodward. I mean, you know, I could argue that should Scott Woodward have been fired? I mean, can two things be true? Can Brian Kelly be a good hire and it didn't work? You know, I mean, you said that, you know, it was a bad hire, and obviously, you know, it didn't work out. I don't know who they would have hired instead, but the 10-year contract is a problem.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Scott Woodward hired Kim Mulkey, Jay Johnson. He hired the soccer coach, Sean Hudson, who's doing well. Obviously, Jay Clark got promoted. I mean, they've won a lot of national championships since he was there, and he's no longer there. He's going to go somewhere else and work for somebody else, there's no doubt.
And that's crazy. You just mentioned Jay Johnson, Kim Mulkey. All these guys won national championships. The gymnast coach won a championship. But you're only judged by football.
Yeah, it's your
your
mother load.
I know that's the unfortunate situation. I believe initially when he hired Brian Kelly, like in his mind he thought, okay, this would work because obviously Brian Kelly was successful at Notre Dame. But let me tell you something, Jock. The SEC is a different beast and it's a different animal. Yeah. And if mentally, like you can be really great X's and O's, you can be really great structuring and delegating. But when it comes down to the SEC, it's the mental load. Because not only you have to worry about you playing Tim Tebow this Saturday and Percy Harvin. You went, Sunday gets here. You got Darren McFadden and Felix Jones. Next you got Cam Newton who was birthed from somewhere in the universe. It's nonstop. Yeah. And so mentally as a coach, if you're not prepared for that, it can wear on you. And I think Brian Kelly, coaches from the outside say a lot of noise about, SEC this, SEC that, until they actually get here and they realize the mental strain that it has on you.
I remember he learned that in his first year in 2022. They beat Alabama at home, one of the most exciting games I've ever seen in the stadium. They go for 2. Jaden Daniels hits Mason Taylor. Jaden Daniels puts on a show in the fourth quarter, takes the game over. They beat Saban. They rush the field. Amazing game. The next week, they go to Arkansas, who's going nowhere fast. They're having a terrible year. I think they even plugged a wide receiver in at quarterback.
They did.
And LSU was darn lucky to get out of there with a 13-10 win in the freezing cold to win that game. Thank God for Harold Perkins,
Yep.
who I think he had 4 quarterback sacks, and they took one away, and they said on Monday he's got 3 quarterback sacks. Like, what is that? Anyway, they barely get out of Arkansas, and he's like, man, every game in this. So on one end at Notre Dame, it's harder to recruit there. They got more academic restrictions, but then they're also playing every week Wake Forest and some teams that are not upper echelon. So you come to LSU, it seems like you can get more talent, although the critics of Brian Kelly said he did not recruit at the level. Nick Saban, Les Miles, Ed Ogeron did not recruit at that level. But then every week you're playing, like you said, I mean, Auburn, they expect to win. Florida, they expect to win. Oklahoma, Texas, these new teams are tradition rich. Nobody is saying, yeah, we lost today. That's okay.
No, they're not. No, they're not. Even with Arkansas, nobody's talking about it. But Arkansas can beat you. Like, they were 2 points away from beating A&M. And offensive, they can score points. The quarterback, Green, is a phenomenal dual-threat quarterback. So if LSU comes out and just whatever, Arkansas is going to beat them if they don't come up prepared and play the way they're supposed to.
Yeah. LSU has beaten them a lot in recent years. I think they won pretty big last year at Arkansas. I think it was 34-10. But outside of that, it's been a root canal every time they play these guys. I mean, Arkansas always plays LSU tough. It's hard to counter that. I always talk about it. We go up to Arkansas, we watch the local news, and they're like, Arkansas is hosting LSU. This is the Razorbacks' #1 rival. It's the biggest home game of the year. And when Arkansas comes here, we don't feel that way about the game, And so they always view it as bigger than LSU does, and they like the boot. Boot was a joke when you played, wasn't it? Or how did you feel about the boot?
I don't know, to be honest with you, because people, they say it was a thing, but we never really paid attention to it. To be honest with you, we didn't go into the game like, man, we got to win the boot. I mean, I was worried about stopping Peyton Hillis, Darry Beckwith, and Felix Jones and that Wildcat, the Razorback offense. Yeah. That was my concern. I can care less about a golden boot. Now, if we won it, you would see the guys after the game trying to carry it, but that was really never our main concern.
Well, let's be honest. The guys that were carrying were guys who didn't play, right? Those were kind of the guys at the end of the bench.
Well, I'm not gonna say that because I did see Ricky Jean Francois one year.
Okay.
Yeah, carried one year, but no, we didn't go into it. Coach Miles, for all his corkiness and all his outlandish things he said, he never came in the meetings like, "Oh, we're going for the what's it called? The golden boot."
The golden boot.
Yeah, we're going for the golden boot. We have a lot of stories about him, but that was never his main focal point.
The Arkansas was the one.
The Arkansas. Then he gave us a pregame speech one time for Arkansas when he said somebody called him. We were in Arkansas, and the night before he got a phone call to his hotel room, and somebody was like, "Pig Suey," and he told us that it was a pregame speech. Actually, a pregame speech to get us hyped up. We had no idea where that story was going. The story didn't go anywhere. He kept saying they kept calling him again Pig Suey. They were being disrespectful. He was trying to get a good night's rest, but they kept saying Pig Suey, and it pisses me off. So we got to go out there and lay it on the line. I was like, man, what are you talking about? But with all that said, man, hindsight 2020, what's going on right now gives me a lot more appreciation for Coach Miles, because even though people say he wouldn't change his offense, you knew what we were going to do. We had an identity. You could never say a Coach Miles team was going to get pushed around and you're going to get out hit and you weren't going to be in shape. We're always physical. We played to the all 4 quarters, and we would run through a wall. And that's one thing that I think that they're lacking now. It's not about wins and losses for me right now.
Right.
It's about how you playing the game of football.
Yeah. Well, I've said that too. I've said that this current regime could use a big shot of Les Miles and the Les Miles era for exactly what you said. Now, look, when there's some disappointing years, especially later in his career, did they not maximize their talent? Was he stubborn about the offensive scheme? Was the quarterback play what it needed to be at times? No. But like you just said, if LSU lost, it wasn't because the other guys were more talented.
No.
It wasn't because you guys got pushed around. I mean, you could always run the football for the most part. Except, when Alabama's got 9 guys in the box. And Leonard Fournette, and I still hate that when I get on Twitter and they show Leonard Fournette highlights and the Alabama fans jump in immediately and say, "Who showed the Bama highlights?" Yeah. Well, if they would have thrown the ball a little bit or could, get maybe 7 people in the box instead of 15.
Right.
But, physicality, defense punch you in the mouth, run the football, those were all trademarks of Les Miles in his era, and those things have kind of been missing.
They have, and even special teams, guys took pride in special teams.
Yeah, you're very good in special teams.
Like running down the field on kickoff. We talked about it. He always preached, if you're on a kickoff team, you're a starter because you're on the field first. And guys took pride in that. I mentioned Duke Riley and Debo Jones. They did that for 3 years, Jock.
Yeah.
Didn't transfer, didn't go anywhere. I played with guys. I mentioned a guy like Ron Brooks, special teams, right? And when he got his opportunity to play on defense, he took advantage of it. So I think it's a collective unit, offense, defense, special teams, and guys buying in and having that mindset that we're all going to pull that same string and try to get to the same result, and that's winning football games and winning championships.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry, long before he was the guy making one-handed catches and becoming one of the best wide receivers in LSU history, 2011, he was a freshman, and he just murdered people on special teams, running down the field and hitting people. And I mean, even later, James Wright, he was a wide receiver. Mm-hmm. He didn't catch many passes, but he was always the first guy down there to make the tackle. And yeah, special teams is important. You know, it's only a few moments in a game, but boy, if you don't do them right, you can lose games really quick by giving up a punt return or having a punt blocked or missing an extra point, whatever the case may be.
It's about a mindset and pride. And so right now at LSU, their program has to get back to having a certain mindset and has to get back to having pride and playing for those 3 letters on your helmet, LSU, playing for that name on the back of the jersey. And I think a lot of times with this whole NIL era, we become detached from that. We become detached from playing what's on your helmet or the name on the back of your jersey. Like that Beckwith name wasn't about me. That Beckwith's name was about my parents sitting in the stand, my sister, my auntie sitting in the stand, my brother sitting in the stand. I was playing for them because they got to experience things that they probably would not have got to experience if I didn't have the opportunity to play at LSU. And I didn't want them to say, when they go to work on Monday, and they say, man, your son got ran over. Like I heard Brandon Taylor talk about that one time. Like he said, that's what I didn't want my dad to go to work Monday and say, man, your son sure looked terrible out there. And so you play for more than yourself. And I think when they get back to that, when they're playing more than for rev share and they're playing more for NIL, I think you would get back to seeing this dominant football from LSU.
Yeah, and the bowls meant something too, you know, where back when you played, it was like 2 teams got into the BCS and everybody else was angling for, you know, a New Year's Day bowl, a prestigious bowl. 2005, we were talking about before you came on the air. You played Miami, you know, in a packed Georgia Dome, and you beat them 40-3, you know, and beat him in the tunnel afterwards.
Yeah,
Andrew Whitworth said they got 2 ass whippings, one in the field, one in the tunnel.
Yeah, that's true.
2006 Sugar Bowl, right? I think that was the day that Nick Saban got hired at Alabama too, by the way. Yeah. But Jamarcus Russell airing it out that day. Yep. They had Notre Dame had Brady Quinn.
Yeah.
Charlie Weiss was the head coach, and y'all smashed them in the Superdome, and then obviously the national championship in 07. Even in 08. When you had the dual coordinators and it was a 7-5 year, it was a very disappointing. You played this Peach Bowl against Georgia Tech, who was highly ranked. They ran this option. They're like, how are we going to stop this? And y'all
they scored 3 points,
38-3. I think
3 points. Yeah. And Jonathan Dwyer was the ACC Player of the Year that year, and we prepared so much for that triple option offense. I don't think these guys got past the 50-yard line.
Yeah, it was.
But again, that was pride. That was like, man, we cannot end our season like this. And we all bought in. I remember we had a team meeting, and Coach Miles was like, hey, guys, we got to play within the system and play within the scheme. And I remember Tyson Jackson stood up and said, you know what, no disrespect, we've been doing within the scheme, playing within the system all year long, and it hasn't gotten us anywhere. He said, I want y'all to go out there and play like it's your last game. But for a lot of us, it was our last game. Mm-hmm. And just let it all out, and that's what we did.
Yeah, did he tear something down? Tyson Jackson, like he tore down something. He pulled something down.
Yeah, it got emotional. He got intense because he was talking about like Buffalo Soldiers, like back in the day. He had a whole story about the Buffalo Soldiers and how they came through the ranks. And for his sake, I'm not gonna get into it because even certain moments I think are sacred.
Yeah.
In the football locker room. But it was intense, and that's the first time that I actually seen Tyson cry.
Yeah.
And you talking about 6'7", 300, almost 300 pounds, and it meant the world to him not to end, especially for the seniors, to lose a game like that, especially against Georgia Tech, you know.
Yeah.
Like, we can't lose to Georgia Tech.
Paul Johnson was their head coach.
Yeah.
I didn't really like him.
Yeah, no. And so it was,
and then once they fall behind, there's nothing they can do because they can't throw the ball.
Nothing. They did try to throw the ball, and Chad Jones made probably the most incredible play ever I've seen the safety make. The guy, I remember, I turned around, they threw like they faked the option and threw like a post route. And the guy actually, he caught it. And Chad is like almost Chad was going to get a cookie in a cookie jar. And he just took his hand and boop, and popped it out just as nonchalant as like no effort. And obviously, when we had players, you talk about a guy like Chad Jones, who was 6'3", 240 pounds, playing safety, and can run and literally knock your head off your shoulders. We saw against the Arkansas game when he did. But I think the guys have to get back to that, plan beyond NIL, plan beyond how much money I can get, and play for something special. You have to play for something beyond, because that stuff is temporary. It comes and it goes. What's something that's sustainable for you to play for? Until they figure that out, we're going to be in the same situation again next year.
Real quick on Chad Jones, during baseball season, I had Anthony Ronaldo and Micah Gibbs sitting there from the 09 National Championship team, and they're talking about baseball. This is all we do and practice year round. And said Chad Jones just comes out one day and said, "Yeah, I can throw a slider," and he just gets up and throws a 92 mile an hour ball, and they put him in a game one day with the bases loaded against Auburn on a Sunday. I remember Paul Maneri was like, "I just said, please God," and he gets 2 strikeouts, and the Alec Box Stadium standing ovation, 8,000 people, whatever. I mean, he's got to be one of the more special athletes in LSU history. What he could do in 2 sports.
Oh, he was gifted. And they have stories all the time. We have a spring football game that he'll walk across the street, go 2 for 2, strike a couple people out like it was nothing. And like they did is like baseball players, this is something you have to constantly practice, repetition. Same thing in football, but I feel like baseball is a little bit more tedious. And he would just go out there and dominate. We saw in the World Series what he did. Yeah. Just went on the mound, was throwing the ball 90 miles per hour like it was nothing. Yes. Football came easy to him. Baseball came easy to him.
Yeah. Just like me. Yeah,
I can tell, Jock.
Yeah,
a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah, my claim to fame was 22 points in a junior varsity basketball game against Kaplan in 1992 or 3. How about that? North Vermillion High School.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was like 135 pounds. They were like, but Dad's like, when are you going to gain any weight? Why don't you eat something? It's like, I am. I can't put on any weight. It's like a good problem to have later. I don't know, but then creatine came along.
Okay.
Then I started.
I could tell it's working now, John.
Well, I don't know about that. Dad bod over here, but I put on weight. It was too late in college. The only thing, intramurals, Sigma Nu, like that meant anything.
Right.
All right, how are we going to wrap this up after all that? So they got 3 games left to play in Arkansas. They should beat Western Kentucky at least to get bowl eligible, and then they got a tough regular season finale at Oklahoma. The quarterback spot, so we know Garrett Nussmeier's not going to be back next year. So you kind of are you doing your very best? Are you playing your best players to win the game, which I think they're doing? But then also you're like, okay, Garrett's not here yet next year. Do we need to get a better look at this Michael Van Buren and see if he's part of our future or not?
It's hard because the offense right now, the state that it's in, is nothing you can do to fix that offense. And I mean that sincerely. Like, if
it's an off-season problem.
If Joe Burrow walks through that door, I don't think he'll be successful in this offense because they have no identity. And then what you have to be careful and tread a thin line by just forcing Michael Van Buren into the offense, because if he's not successful, what is he going to hear? Oh, he's not the man either. And what he's going to do? Hop in the transfer portal because it's the easy thing to do. That offense is not tailored toward his skill set. So if the offense is not tailored toward his skill set, how successful is he going to be? And also, he has to go on the road against Oklahoma, who has the best defense in the SEC. That's not going to end. That's not going to fare well. So right now, I think they should tread lightly. Obviously, Nussmeier, I think, is more of a loyalty thing and what he's meant for LSU. And he didn't leave early to go in the NFL. He didn't hop in the transfer portal. But even that offensively, it goes back to decision making, right? Letting Mike Denbrock roll, right? I think when Denbrock was here, every year they improved from year 1 to year 2. Obviously, they won a Heisman Trophy. Can you imagine if Nussmeier was in that Denbrock offense because he was familiar with it, how much further along Nussmeier would be? So we always put the onus on players. Nussmeier's not playing well. He's not good. But it comes down to coaching. Look at Daniel Jones in the NFL right now with the Indianapolis Colts. Danny Dimes. He's actually throwing dimes. People want to say, he's a bust. Right. You got to go to the right system and the right organization. And I think right now with Nussmeier, it's unfortunate, but we cannot put all the onus and the blame on a player. The skill set has to match the scheme. And by putting Michael Van Buren there right now, I don't think it's going to make a difference.
Well, maybe it's the case of in the spring when he's getting ready for the NFL draft, maybe Garrett Nussmeier will come clean and say, okay, this was the deal. This is what was going on. Because, I mean, it's the question that I don't know any of us have the perfect answer to. What is the deal with Garrett Nussmeier this year? I mean, is he hurt? Is he not? I mean, I still don't think – do you think the ball's coming out of his hand with the velocity that it should? I still am not seeing the zip that maybe he had a year ago.
I think Greg Bowser made a great point, and obviously we do games together on Friday nights, and he was telling me this. It's not that he lost his arm strength. It's not that he lost his accuracy. Nussmeier has happy feet. Meaning this. So you think about defensively. They always tell us you cannot hit what you can't see as a defender. If your eyes are closed, you can't make a tackle. Yeah. So a lot of times you see people miss tackles because their eyes closed and they're taking terrible angles. As a quarterback, he doesn't trust his O-lineman. And so when he does get pressure, he's not looking downfield. Like I always compare, I said it one time on the show, Non-Sports Extra, it's like a basketball player. The great shooters, you can have their hand in their face all you want. They're not looking at your hand. They're looking at that goal. That's why it's like you're not even there. So he's not keeping his eyes downfield. So he's looking at the pressure, and that's why he's missing wide open receivers, and he gets happy feet. Now he's not able to navigate and step up in the pocket. Like that sack he took against Alabama last week was terrible because he's looking at the rush. He doesn't have any pocket field because I think he's worried too much about the rush. He's not looking downfield and being able to deliver the football in a timely manner while taking a hit. Yeah. I think that's Garrett's issue. It's not the arm talent. It's not the accuracy. I just think his eyes are in the wrong location. And when that starts to happen, you lose confidence. And I feel bad for him. Obviously, being a former player, I kind of know how that can go sometimes where you can feel depleted and lose confidence.
Well, look, Jarrett Lee played a lot of good football for you, but he had some of those issues at times, right? The happy feet.
But also, and Jarrett Lee was a redshirt freshman, and then obviously he didn't think he was going to start that year. Oh, Jarrett, we'll get in here and run a wide-open offense with Garrett Croton and see what happens.
Well, Tommy Hodson told me one time, the second your eyes go down, you're cooked.
Yeah.
Once you start looking at the rush instead of eyes down the field, you're cooked. And somebody brought up a good point to me. Just chatting with me about this the other day. He said, if you walk outside and every time you walk outside, somebody hits you with a stick, the next time you walk outside, you're going to be, and he's kind of that way too, where he's kind of maybe I've been getting hit all year long. And look, there's some things he can do better. I'm not, absolving Garrett Nussmeier of all fault, but have they protected him the best? No. And he's gotten hit a lot. And so it's just been a lot of people to blame, offensive line, the play calling, the quarterback play, we haven't seen the big plays out of the wide receivers. They've been kind of a possession kind of group of guys. I thought Barry Brown would have a bigger impact. He's had a decent year. Chris Hilton obviously hasn't done nearly what we were hoping he was going to do. Nick Anderson caught 10 touchdowns as a freshman at Oklahoma. He hasn't done anything close to that. He's had injuries. Aaron Anderson might have been the MVP of the team a year ago. He hasn't had injuries and stuff, and so it's a long. Bauer Sharp hasn't worked out the way, bad fumble the other night. We can go on and on. Trey Dez has been, he's been a consistent bright spot, but he dropped one wide open against Alabama the other night. That was a difference maker in the game. So, plenty of blame to go around, I guess.
That's how the season. But look, I tell you what, they better not go in the portal and get any more wide receivers this year. And I thought that was a mistake this year too. Getting all these wide receivers in the portal. Yeah. If you were so portal heavy, try to allocate that towards the O-lineman, because Nick Saban said this. It was a true statement. Wide receivers in Louisiana grow off trees. Justin Jefferson was a 1-star, if that. You talk about these guys that came to play the wide receiver position. You don't have to go in the portal and get all these wide receivers when you got guys right down the street who can catch a football.
Well, it's cliche, but football is built from the outside.
Yep.
From the inside out, not the inside out. Right. I remember, this is stupid, but I remember the Cleveland Browns. Remember when they signed both Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham in the offseason, and they had some, just give them the Super Bowl now. Oh, wow, it's going to be so great. It's like, well, wide receivers don't win Super Bowls.
No.
Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, pass rushers, and quarterbacks.
Right.
But, wide receivers are nice to have. They're important, but that's not how football teams are built. All right, so appreciate Darry's been our 9 Sports Extra guy this year, and he's still doing the high school stuff. You got playoff games from now until the playoffs for high school football is probably the longest in proportion to the regular season, because the regular season is 10 games, and the high school, I think, the playoffs take up 5 weeks.
Yeah, it does.
So it's like half of your regular season.
It is. And now with the whole division state championship games, they play like 3 games a day. So last year we did Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It was 3 games on Thursday, 3 games on Friday, and Saturday was 2. So that's 8 games. That's 8 games in 3 days.
Well, on one end, you can say there's too many classifications. It's too many state champions. We're watering it down. But on the other end, you get more football to watch. It's like people that complain about there's too many bowl games. Well, a lot of y'all watch them all, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a Pop-Tart Bowl, and who's playing? Okay, I'll watch this.
True. That's true.
So, all right, Darry, good seeing you, man.
Always a pleasure. Yes, sir.
Darry Beckwith, I'm Jacques Doucet. Thanks for stopping by. I'm just praying that 3 huge stories didn't happen in the last 40 minutes I've been talking to Darry. That's the way it's been going around here in Baton Rouge lately. We'll see you later.